Leave a like in 5 seconds if you want the real Mandarin to make his debut in Phase 4.
And you'll never see me coming.
Welcome everyone to Marvel Hub. This is DK Dynamite, and today we're going to be talking about when the real Mandarin will finally make his debut within the MCU. So, shout out to Gentleman Gear Grinder over on the Marvel Studios Spoilers Reddit, who asked Kevin Feige whether or not there are any plans to incorporate the 10 rings from the first Iron Man or the real Mandarin from All Hail the King in the future. And Kevin Feige then replied by saying yes. So, Kevin Feige didn't reveal too much yesterday when he did a bit of a Q&A over on Reddit, but answering a question like that is definitely important because it gets us theorizing about whether or not or when we'll see the real Mandarin later down the line. But if I had to make a safe bet, I'm gonna say the real Mandarin is probably gonna be appearing in Phase 4, and in terms of when in Phase 4, that is the golden question, because there have been some rumors lately on 4chan that apparently the 10 rings and the Mandarin will be featured in Shang Chi. So obviously Shang Chi is a little bit of an unknown character when it comes to Marvel Comics. Not too many people know him. Obviously there are some die-hard Marvel fans who know exactly who he is, but in terms of sort of bringing him to the forefront and making him as popular as, let's say, the Guardians of the Galaxy, who also weren't too well known before the MCU, I think they'll do it in such a magnificent way if they just incorporate little threads and little side plots that were already established earlier in the MCU. So incorporating something simple like 10 rings obviously allows Shang-Chi to feel like it's truly a part of the MCU, not just a standalone film that may or may not cross over with other characters later down the line. Obviously he's teamed up with people like Spider-Man in the comics, he's sort of been involved in some S.H.I.E.L.D. activity, he's been around here and there in the comics, but in terms of really making him a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think that would be an easy way to do so. Now in terms of why the Mandarin will be appearing in a Shang-Chi movie, well, according to D Terrible Twins, also on the Marvel Studios Reddit, he said that Marvel can't use Fu Manchu as Shang-Chi's father due to legal issues and because he is a racist stereotype. So he made the proposition that maybe the Mandarin could end up being Shang-Chi's father within the movie itself, which would be even more interesting. So in terms of how that would work going forward, obviously they would have a little bit of foundation already established for this real Mandarin thanks to Iron Man 3, but going forward it could really make the 10 rings a real threat and could obviously invite other heroes to join in on the fight against the real Mandarin if he has his 10 rings of magic like in the comics and cartoon. But in terms of the Mandarin being an Iron Man villain and no longer having an Iron Man to fight, I still think there's potential for an Iron Lad or an Iron Heart to later down the line face the real Mandarin, because let's face it everybody, Iron Man 3 wasn't an awful movie, but I think the only reason I truly dislike it is because of the villain twist, and they had a pretty good actor for the fake Mandarin, Ben Kingsley. He could have been a great Mandarin if he was really the actual Mandarin, but they somehow went with a whole different direction of sort of making him a joke and making Aldrich Killian the actual villain of the movie and supposedly the actual Mandarin towards the end of the film. But thanks to the Marvel one-shot All Hail the King, it was then established that the real Mandarin from the real 10 rings was upset that Ben Kingsley's character, I believe his name was Trevor Slattery, was using the Mandarin's name when he shouldn't have. So I think that's some great foundation already for a potential real Mandarin to pop up, but it's been quite a while since we've even heard of the Mandarin. It's been literally almost 2 phases since we've ever heard that name in the MCU, so to see him reappear in Shang-Chi would definitely be some great fan service for those of us who are disappointed with that plot twist of Iron Man 3. But Iron Man 3 obviously has a great cast, obviously has the great characters that we all know and love, has a little bit of a throwback to the first 2 Iron Man movies, but really does a great job with making Tony realize that he's still a hero without the suit. So him removing the arc reactor on his chest at the end of the movie is just symbolism to kind of make it clear that even without the Iron Man suit, he's still Iron Man. He is Iron Man, and Tony Stark is obviously the hero that everybody knows, not just the suit that he wears. So with that being said, Iron Man 3 wasn't an awful movie, but I think it could have been a beautiful and perfect send-off to the character, or I should say a fitting end to the Iron Man trilogy, if the real Mandarin was in that movie, because it almost felt like, you know, if they had done it with Batman, and let's say they made the Joker or Bane or Ra's al Ghul a big joke like that, people would have been pissed, because those are obviously some well-known villains. But for a hardcore hardcore Iron Man fans, to see the Mandarin butchered like that in the movie was definitely pretty disappointing. But let me know what you think of all this down below in the comment section. This has been DK Dynamite. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn notifications on to stay up to date with latest and greatest Marvel news and information. And peace out, everyone.